Okay, so okay, let's start this session. Okay, just give me a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the significance of intellectual property rights. And I'm Ankit Kumar, the founder of Legal Sync. And with immense pleasure, I welcome you all with my Legal Sync team on this exciting session. As you all know already that intellectual property rights is an fascinating subject as well as the emerging career opportunity for the law students. But all of you don't worry, I'm not here to speak on the subject because we have a highly qualified and experienced speaker with us. Before we dive into the session, I would like to take a moment to mention legal things. We as a legal things strive to create valuable learnings for the opportunity and to provide the resources for the law students in order to help the law students in growth of their legal careers. And before, without any explaining so much of our ideas and business, we would like to just encourage you all to please follow us on our social media channels so you can updated on upcoming events like competitions, webinar, workshop, and many other opportunities like internship, paid internships, and as well as the blog and article publication on our website as well. So now, without any further ado, without taking any so much time, let me introduce our esteemed speaker of the day, Miss Shivika Mehra. Miss Mehra has recently completed her LLM in intellectual property rights from Queen's Mary University, London. She is also an enrolled advocate with the Bar Council of India. So her her extensive practical knowledge and experience with the subject like intellectual property rights make her perfect person to speak on this topic. So I encourage you all to please make the most of this session and please feel free to ask any questions you may have regarding this topic or the subject, regarding the career of the career in the intellectual property rights, how to pursue it, where to pursue it, and anything like that. Please ask me, and I is here to answer all of that. So thank you all for listening me, and let's get started. Over to you, ma'am. If I'm audible now?
Yeah, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So firstly, I would like to thank Legal Sync for giving me this opportunity to give my insights on IP law. And secondly, everybody present out here, thank you so much for joining me today to learn a little more about IP law. Uh, I would just like to start the session by asking everybody present here if anybody has any idea about what actually IPR is, like anything about IPR that you know of.
Yes, please, Simar Singh, please, speaker, you can.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Good morning, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Yeah, ma'am.
Good evening.
Basically, IPR stands for Intellectual Property Rights, and intellectual property is a very big domain consisting of trademark, copyrights, patents, GIs, and other such things. So, basically, it's a field where we learn on how to enforce these rights in our field, like for example as a creator, and so that we can make the most of out of our creations and could not be exploited by anybody else.
Right. Anybody else? I think you've explained it really well, but just in case anybody else wants to add something before I start with the presentation. No, I start then.
Yes, ma'am. Please
Could
continue.
you please allow me to share my screen?
Yes, just give me a second. Yes, ma'am, you can please share your am I audible
Just a
now?
second. Yeah, I'm just. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so as we know that today we are talking about the significance of IP, I'll start with the basics. What are actually intellectual property rights? IPR stands for intellectual property rights, and these are basic legal protections that are granted to creators and inventors for their inventions, literary or artistic works, symbols, names, images, which are usually used in a day-to-day basis. Another very important significance of IP is for customers to clearly differentiate between the brands that they're using. For example, today we know Zara is Zara because of the logo that we see whenever we enter the store, or the font which it is written in. The main purpose of IPR is to encourage creation and innovation. IP law is basically the legal framework that protects these inventions. There are n number of IP laws, and each of these IP laws is catered by a different act in India. If I talk about at the international level, I think most of you must be knowing that there's a TRIPS agreement, which sets out the minimum standards for IP protection, which most of the signatories have to follow by, and then they can always add on to their law depending on the need of their nation. So India is a signatory to TRIPS. So most of the Indian laws that we see today, the IP laws, are based on TRIPS, and then India has definitely added whatever it has needed from time to time. Now, another short question that I would like to ask any of you present here, that today we know that everywhere around us we can see IP, right? From the phone that we are using or the laptop that we are using. What do you think is the IP that we have if we take the example of an iPhone? So, what, according to you, can be the possible IPs that we have in the iPhone product? If any of you would like to answer.
Ma'am, trademark.
Yes. What is the trademark in the iPhone?
Yes, Sriram.
Hello. Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Firstly, there's this trademark, the logo, the name.
Yeah.
Both of these are
Yes.
trademarked. Secondly, we can
Yes.
also see the patents in the technology used by
Hmm.
the Apple products. And
Hmm.
then when we come into all the logos and the design and the ads that are run behind it, we can also see the copyright work behind it. So
Right.
I think these are the
Yeah.
IP.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. So the top five IPs that I'll be covering in the in the iPhone product that we have is basically trademark, as mentioned, the Apple logo, the Apple name. In today's world, we know Apple because we recognize the logo whenever we see it. Copyright, the software behind Apple that we are using. The patent is the technology behind the Apple phone that none of us is aware of, because that is the sole distinguishing point that makes Apple Apple today. And then the design of the phone. And then the trade secret is basically the technical know-how. For example, the iOS that each of us upgrade to every now and then whenever the update comes up. So that is a technical know-how because of which Apple has reached so much success right now, because of the trade secret that it has. Now, if I talk about the title of the webinar, Significance of IP, the basic significance of IP, I think most of us know, is to stop others from infringing your IP. For example, in today's time, I have IP over, for example, the design of Apple phone. Nobody else can use it. Is there a disturbance?
Sorry, Anjali, can you please mute your mic? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So Negative right is basically when you stop others from using your IP. But another significance of IP is that it can also be turned or converted into a positive right, in which you give another person the permission to use your IP in exchange of basically monetary gains. So that is basically termed as commercialization of IP, which is done by way of licensing. You sign contracts with the other person in which you allow them to use their IP and then they pay you in return for that. So, in such cases, whenever the other person is using your IP, it is not infringement because you have licensed them to do so. Now, the types of IPR, the basic types are copyright, trademark, patent, industrial designs, geographical indications, and trade secrets. I'll go by each of these types really quickly. Uh, Copyright basically protects the original works of authorship, such as literary, artistic, dramatic, or musical works. In India, the copyright law is governed by the Copyright Act of 1957. Any of you who wishes to protect their work by copyright, the basic requirements are originality, fixation, and expression. Now, the exact meaning of fixation and expression is based on the idea expression dichotomy theory, which basically tells you that you can not just protect an idea, but once you've written it down or you have it in a fixed form, you can always protect it. For example, scripts or books that we see, the novels that we read. The duration of copyright is usually lifetime of the author plus 60 years post his death. A very famous example could be, I think, everybody's favorite Taylor Swift song Lover. The lyrics, the cover page, the name Lover is copyrighted. Next, we move to trademark. Trademark is basically one of the best IPs that can be used for customers to distinguish between two brands so that they know which brand to trust on and which is the brand that will actually give them the quality that they are looking for. So, a trademark is a sign which enables us to distinguish between goods and services of one brand from another. In India, the trademark law is governed by the Trademarks Act of 1999. The requirements are as mentioned that it should be distinctive, there should be a graphical representation, it should not be descriptive, it should not be contrary to public morality or order, and it should not be identical. Because the basic rule is if it's identical, then it will lead to confusion among the consumers, and that will defeat the purpose of trademark law. The duration of trademark, which is the best, is it's unlimited. But you have to renew it after 10 years, every 10 years. The famous trademarks, as we discussed, is Apple, Netflix. The Todum sound that you hear on Netflix, that is also a trademark. Dairy Milk. Dairy Milk, for the longest time, did file a case in the court to register its purple color because that could also be a trademark, but unfortunately, it lost. Now we talk about patents. A patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention, process, product that provides a new way of doing something or offers a new technical solution to the problem. In India, the patent law is governed by the Patents Act 1970. The requirements are it should be novel, that is, it should be new, it should have an inventive step, and it should have some industrial application. And the duration is 20 years. You cannot extend it any longer. Uniqlo, all of us know about, is a brand that I think everybody of you must be owning. The heat tech fabric technology of Uniqlo that it uses in its jackets is a patented technology. This is a very recent example, so I wanted to use it. Industrial designs. An industrial design constitutes the ornamental aspect of an article. In India, it is governed by the Designs Act 2000. Requirements are novelty, individual character, industrial applicability, and the duration is 10 years, which can be extended for another 5 years. The famous example for this could be Dyson, the Dyson products that we see around us. Every Dyson product has its own design and it has registered it under the Designs Act of 2000. Geographical indications. India is highly rich in geographical indications because we have a lot many products that we can relate to geographical places. Geographical indications are basically a sign on products that have a special geographical origin and possess qualities and reputation due to that origin. The act is mentioned, the Geographical Act Indications of Goods Act 1999. And the simple requirement is that if you're able to identify a product because of the origin, so that is a GI. It's 10 years, the duration, and can be additionally renewed for another 10 years. The famous examples, I think most Indians out here would be knowing Darjeeling tea, Nagpur oranges, and another international example could be the French champagne, that is also a GI. Trade secrets, one of the best IPs according to me because it does give an additional layer of protection. Trade secrets are IP rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. The sad part is that India right now has no law regarding trade secrets. It is specifically governed by contract law, equity law, or the common laws. However, the ray of hope is that in 2024, a protection of trade secrets bill was introduced, and we hope that it someday turns into an act because then that will make India, maybe it will give India an edge over nations which are still in that run of converting their trade secrets into a law. So the requirements are basic secrecy, confidential value, and reasonable efforts. The best part again about trade secrets, just like trademarks, is that you can protect it for an unlimited period of time. As long as you can keep it as a secret, it is a trade secret that can be used by your brand, and then you can take it over for years. Coca Cola, everybody knows. Coca Cola is the best protected trade secret till date. It's been over 100 years that this brand has been selling the same drink with the same taste, and none of us knows the exact recipe behind the drink. And however, reverse engineering is quite possible in trade secrets, but it's not that easy if you talk about it. You cannot just bring a Coca Cola bottle one day to your home and reverse engineer it. It's really difficult to find the exact ingredients behind the taste that you get. So it is considered that Coca Cola is the best protected trade secret till date. Now we know that IP is everywhere around us. Like before doing my LLM, I did not realize this fact, but I think over this span of 1 year, I have literally realized that everywhere you look around yourselves, the pen maybe that you're using, the fan, the air conditioner, the phone, the laptop, the clothes that you're wearing, the shoes that you're wearing. A very good example could be Skechers, a footwear brand. Uh, it has been patenting all its technologies that it uses in its shoes. The latest one being the hands-free technology, where you do not actually have to touch the shoe. This is one example of us believing in the fact that IP is actually everywhere. You look around and you will find IP. So today I'll be covering how IP has had a significant role in the creative industries. Today I'll just be covering the top three creative industries: the music industry, the film industry, and the fashion industry. So I start with the fashion industry. Fashion industry is mainly governed by IP law. I came to know this when I came to do my LLM that everything in the fashion industry is IP, from costumes to the logos to the packaging to the fabric to the brand name. Even the ramp walks that you see in fashion shows, that is also protected by copyright to a certain extent. The choreography that actually is made on how the models will walk the ramp, how they'll come back, what pose they'll do, everything can be protected by copyright. Uh, Fabrics, as I mentioned, the example of Uniqlo is a great example of how the fashion industry is governed by IP. Packaging, I think, a very common example could be Tiffany, the jewelry brand that everybody is aware of. Tiffany is basically protecting its IP everywhere, from the name to the color of the product. The blue color that you see, the Pantone blue, that is also protected by trademarks. Uh, the logos of any fashion brand, for example, in today's time, we know H&M because the logo that we see on any clothing or any fabric that is used in clothing or any store, the banner, we know that this is H&M. You pick any film, you pick any movie that you like, the title of the film, the songs behind it, the script which is written in the film, the logos, the dialogues. I think most of you would be aware that Anil Kapoor and Jackie Shroff has recently released a movie called IPR. just trademark, and then you cannot say it because then that's violation of law and that would lead to trademark infringement. So, if I talk about the film industry, everything is protected by all sorts of IPs. For example, if I talk about the script, it is basically protected by copyright. As I told you, once it's written, it's expressed in a fixed form, you can protect it. Secondly, the logos. Maybe a movie name can also be a trademark. The dialogues, the famous dialogues, as I mentioned, Anil Kapoor and Jackie Shroff. The songs, everything has IP in it. So once you start viewing a picture, like for me, before actually venturing completely into IP, I had no idea that there's so much IP everywhere. Like the color combination, maybe the pose that people make, the actors make. For example, Shah Rukh Khan, everybody's favorite, the typical pose that he does can be protected under trademark or copyright. He hasn't done that till yet, but he can. Like that is the potential that IP law actually holds. Lastly, the music industry. Uh, I would just like to tell you a very factual kind of a thing that the top three labels in today's times, which are really well known, Sony Music, most Indians would be knowing about it, Warner Brothers, and Universal Studios. These are the top three music labels which usually are ruling the music industry at the moment. India is great while creating music, and as per surveys and reviews, it has been really concluded that say 5 to 10 years down the line, India will be at the top when it comes to music industry in terms of revenues, the movies that it makes per year, the songs that it releases. So everything behind a song is IP. However, there's no straitjacketed formula which can tell you that a song can be completely owned by the music label, or is it completely owned by the artist, or is it completely owned by the lyricist who has written the song. It's always a mixture of all the components coming together, like a song that you're listening to, whichever your favorite song is, it is never owned by a single entity unless they buy it out. So even the streaming platforms, for example, Wink Music, Spotify, all of these do have their share whenever they are streaming these songs. So it's really a contract to contract basis. Like it really depends. You cannot say that a particular song is completely owned by Sony Music, maybe 50% of it is, but maybe 10% of it will be owned by the lyricist who's written the lyrics. The tune will be owned by the, I don't know, I mean, by anybody who has actually formed that tune. The sound recordings will be owned by the recording studios, the record labels, because they have actually put in their IP while recording that song. The names could be a trademark, and the poster that you see on any song, on any cover page of a music album, that can also be protected. So the music industry is really vast in that way, and it really depends from case to case. Now I'll talk about careers in IP. I think most of you will be really interested in knowing the possible careers that you have in IP. So IP is, most of us say that it is a very niche area because it is still a very growing branch in India. There are not many people who are actually pursuing it, and there are not many people who are actually aware about it. But if you actually see it, the reality is it's really diverse. Any industry that you pick up, you can relate IP to it. So there are n number of career options once you maybe are interested in IP or you have some knowledge of IP. I have just mentioned these three industries, but there are many more that you can come across when you do your research. Another famous industry that I can right now think of is the pharma industry. The pills that you have, the COVID vaccination that came in, everything is protected by either patent law or copyright law, or even the name of the vaccine could be a trademark. So pharmaceutical industry is huge, but yes, it is mainly governed by patent law because it involves a lot of innovation, creativity, scientists and doctors coming up with new innovations to combat diseases. So it really depends, but mainly it mainly the pharma industry, is catered by the patent law. And trademark is everywhere. So, trademark is an IP law which is everywhere, like all over the place. To add on to trademark, I would just like to say that apart from the traditional trademarks that I just discussed, the name, the logo, the sign, there are a bunch of non-traditional marks that are not in the law per se. Not every country is very enthusiastic in protecting them because it's really difficult to protect them. Some of the non-traditional marks are could be sound marks, color marks. If as I mentioned, Cadbury, the Cadbury purple, it wanted to protect it under the color marks, but it could not. So non-traditional marks are usually marks that you get protection for after you have acquired a certain amount of distinctiveness. They aren't really distinctive, but they have become so popular among the masses, and people are so easily able to recognize them that they are granted protection. For example, Louboutin shoes, the red sole behind it is a protected color mark. Tiffany, I mentioned, everything around Tiffany, the blue color, the packaging, everything is protected under color marks. Uh, Now, coming back to careers in IP, I think the basic careers in IP could be that you can become an IP lawyer, you can become an entertainment lawyer where you can cater to the music industry, to the film industry. You can become a fashion lawyer, a trademark examiner. You can always get into teaching, become a lecturer post doing a PhD. Then you can become a trademark lawyer, a patent lawyer. Then there are a number of government jobs that you can apply for. And I think that in India, if I say that there are multiple government jobs, whichever interests you, because if I talk about the main IPs which have a career that you can get into, is basically trademark and patent. Because for copyright, there's no filing process. Copyright is not a right that you can actually go and register. Copyright is an IP that comes into being as soon as you have created an original piece of work. So there's no office that you go to register your work. Whereas for trademark and patent, there are offices that you have to go to. So you need a lawyer who can actually file applications for you, see if there are no previously protected trademarks so that there's no infringement. You're not passing off anybody's trademark. The trademark examiner does the job of actually seeing if there's any similarity between marks so that there's no confusion among the people. Uh, Lastly, I would just like to say that about LLM from Queen Mary of University of India, of London, sorry. I would just like to say that QMUL is a great university, definitely, and I would consider you lucky if you get into it and you're able to study from the best professors in the world. Another plus point of Queen Mary is that it offers a great number of modules. So when I came to the university, I got to know how IP can actually be related to the fashion industry, the film industry, the music industry, the entertainment industry as a whole. So I think Queen Mary University as a whole is a great university which offers great number of modules. Uh, as per the admission process about the Queen Mary University, you have to check their website, and whenever the applications open, you have to apply, and I hope that you get in. Uh, in case of any other further queries, this is my email ID and this is my LinkedIn. You can contact me. I also have an Instagram page which specifically deals with IP, and it does mention about any other updates relating to IP. I would request any of you who is interested, actually interested in IP, to please follow the page. I'll put the link in the WhatsApp group as well. And I would like to thank everybody for listening to me so patiently. And I would like to welcome any questions that any of you has right now. Thank you.
Yes, please ask, Shima.
Hello, hello, ma'am.
Hello. Yes.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask, as an IP enthusiast, I was also looking forward to pursuing my masters from UK next year because
Hmm.
I'm in my
Hmm.
fifth year of law. So, is there any
Hmm.
guidance or anything that you would like me to do? Because I also talked to, I guess, her name was Professor Joanna Gibson. She is the in charge of the IP
The best
department.
professor.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I'd also talked to her, and she also gave me some insights regarding the process of becoming an IP student in QMU. So, is there anything that you
Mm.
would want me to do, or you wished that you could do 1 year before, like, you started your LLM, because it would be a rather, help for me so that I can set up a base
Uh,
here.
if you're just talking about Queen Mary University of London, I would just like to tell you that the admission process is something that you will get when you do your research and everything. Just I think the percentage for QMUL is really high when it comes to IELTS. So you have to score a 7 band. So I think prepare really well for that so that you do not have to give the IELTS exam over and over again. The second advice, I think I was lucky enough I did not commit this mistake, but I think some of my colleagues did, that do not opt for modules which are already taught in India. For example, if you pursue LLM in India, they teach you the basic modules, which is trademark, copyright, patent, that I think you must have studied in your BLLB honors. I did. So when I came to London, I think I was wise enough and I was guided well by my colleagues and my professors to opt for modules which are really different from which is not offered in India. So I would suggest you, if you have interest in, say, the entertainment industry, the fashion industry, the film industry, or any other industry which is not there in India, is very niche in India. So you can, I think, just that advice is to select the modules very carefully once you're entering the university. Like, don't just select on the basis of what is the mode of examination or the professor, but do select if you're actually liking the module, if you'll really gain something different from what you would not have gained in India. And secondly, do attend the induction that takes place, because that will give you a very clear insight on which module you should actually opt for. And divide your credits throughout there are 3 semesters. So throughout the 3 semesters, very carefully, so that you can actually work through each of them and there's not a lot of burden on you personally. I think that's my advice.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And ma'am, were there
Thank you.
any other colleges that you considered while considering QMU?
Uh, I did consider a number of colleges. I did apply in, I think, over 15, 20 colleges. But if you're just interested in IP law, I would suggest QMUL is the best in game at the moment, because the professor, as you talk to Joanna, she's the best uh, in teaching and guiding you. So I'd suggest that if you're just interested in IP law and if you're able to crack QMUL, there's nothing like that. I did apply for numerous universities, but then I think I also chose QMUL because it has a name in IP law, and then that helps you in securing a job later on.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So actually, ma'am, there are few questions in chat box as well. So I will read out to you for you. So I used that job him. He's asking how to become a trademark attorney.
Trademark attorney in UK.
Sorry, he did not clear that point. So maybe he is asking for in India actually.
I think in India there are no per se exams that you have to clear. I do not have a very clear idea about the Indian market. But if I talk about UK, in UK you have to become a trademark attorney once you get a trainee contract. Then there are courses that you have to do, which is I think a 2 to 3 year long process, and then you become a trademark attorney in UK specifically.
Okay, so I believe we got his answers. And there is another question in chat from Asrasmi. If a patent is there, there is a if there is there a risk of the patent being declared invalid? Maybe the creator infringed or another patent. Uh, Treatment.
Yeah, I'll just read the question. I think there's some network issue.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. When you're applying, that is the role of the patent examiner or the trademark examiner. Whenever you're applying for a patent, they do check if there's any infringement or not. Definitely, they'll see if there's any overlap, or if the main factor behind a patent is that it should be novel. It is something new that you're giving to the society that nobody has ever given before. For example, the cure of cancer or the cure of COVID. So I think if I have created a vaccine for COVID and I have a patent for it, and for example, Ankit creates a vaccine for COVID and he wants a patent for it, and he's using the same formula as I patented, his patent will not be granted protection because that will be invalid because I already have a patent in that name. Or I can maybe sue him that he has infringed my patent, and then whatever the court hearing will be and the damages that I'll get. So it's a very case to case situation. But if there's any violation, or if it's similar, the formulation is similar, or if you're not adding anything new to the society, it is definitely infringement. And then you will not get the patent.
Is there anyone who have any kind of query, please ask. Yes, Nupur, please ask. Yes, Nipur, we can see you. Please ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, my question is how can we protect our writing as law student?
As law students, this is a very tricky question because as law students, you can protect your writing. Like anybody can protect their writing or their original work. But the first point is that as law students, none of us work is original. All of us have taken it from somewhere or paraphrased it. It is not original. So there are very bleak chances that you can get actual copyright protection for the same. But I'm not saying that you cannot. You can obviously get a copyright protection if you file it, if it's actually original, and if someday in the future no one comes up and says that you have actually infringed my copyright. So I think you can protect your work. I'm not saying you cannot, but I think there are a lot of complications because as law students, like when I was a law student, or when I think most of us will be able to relate here, that none of the work that we create is actually original. We take help from sources. Of course, we cite them, we give our opinions, but none of it is flag free. There's always flag, say 15, 20%. So I think it can never be completely original. So if the work is not original, you cannot protect it at the first place under copyright law. But I think if you're able to create something which is actually original, maybe you write a novel one day which is completely original, a new idea which has never been talked about or never been written about in such a way as you are thinking, then you can definitely get copyright protection for the same. Usually, oh, I'll just add a point. For students, whenever you enter a university, you sign contracts with them. Most of us don't read those contracts. Most of the contracts have it mentioned that whatever work you're doing as a part of the university is owned by them, completely owned by them. So most of the times, if I'm writing a research paper during my university time, or if you are writing a research paper, that is usually owned by your university, unless there are proper contracts which says that any work that I'll be creating will be owned by me. So I think it's a very contractual relationship that you create, and it really depends from case to case.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe there are a few questions in chat box as well. Should I read it, ma'am? Okay, so there is a question from Anant Jemini. He is asking what are the legal remedies available in India for infringement of IPR?
This is a very broad question to answer, but when it
Yes,
comes to legal remedies, it really depends because, for example, if I talk about trademark, for example, somebody owns an Apple brand, of course, and I come up with the Apple logo that we see is a half bitten apple, right? I come up with a brand with the full apple, and I say that I am making electronic products only, and I'll be selling them in the market. So I think that will lead to consumer confusion. People might think that Apple, the Apple brand that we have in today's time, has maybe come up with their branch with a logo which is a full Apple logo. So that might confuse the consumers. And that is something where I infringe the trademark of the Apple company. So in that, then you can seek remedies under the trademark law for trademark infringement. The same is for copyright infringement. You can always seek remedies under the Copyright Act. For patent, it's the same. Sadly, for trade secrets, we do not have any law, as I mentioned in my PPT. So I think it really depends on which IP has been infringed, because India has made laws on every IP possible. So I think, yeah, you can protect your IP, and you can also file cases in case there's infringement, depending on the IP which has been infringed.
Ma'am, there is another question from Sanskriti Singh. Does IPR has a solely any career option? And if I want to pursue it, can online courses, research paper, and workshop will be the help of it?
IP, I think, yes, is a branch of law that you can pursue solely. It is a branch in itself, and it is a huge branch. With the help of online courses and research papers and workshops, I think it will be helpful for you, of course. But I think in the times to come, to get a job, to get an actual job, you need a degree. So I think you will have to secure a degree, specifically, not an IP law, I'll say, but a law degree. And if you really want to dive into IP law, then go for an LLM.
And one more thing I want to add for these questions. Legal Sync is also going to launch a course on the IP law very soon. So please stay updated. So you can join in there as well. Um, there is another question from Salmi Kenchi, ma'am. Ma'am, suppose I have an employee who is doing some research with the help of my resources, and he has then they have patent of that product.
With regards to, yeah, this is a very straight up question. This is basically based on employer employee relation. Whenever you're an employee of a firm or they hold the rights against any of the IPs that you're creating. Unless, as I mentioned, there's a clear cut contract which says that, like, no, I'll be creating an IP and I'll use it. But if you're specifically mentioned, as it is mentioned in the question, that if you're using the resources, uh, if you're using the resources of the employer, then it is completely owned by the employer. You cannot question that. But if you're doing it out of your employment and using your own resources, then you can completely own it. So I think it's a very case to case scenario, which really depends.
And there are some other questions. Can trade secret and utility models be used as an alternative to patent protection?
I'll say trade secrets in India right now cannot, because there's no law, so you cannot protect them. You need patent protection, of course. But trade secrets do give you an extra layer of protection. So any IP that you have, be it patent, be it copyright, I can't say trademark because it's out there for everybody to view, but patent, copyright, there's then that extra layer of trade secret that is involved. And if you're able to protect that secret, then there's nothing like that, because then your brand has those secrets and mysteries to it which nobody is aware of. And that is the sole reason behind your brand becoming a success. So I think, yeah, it cannot be used alternatively because India does not have any law, but maybe in the times to come. And it also then again depends case to case.
Mhm. So, Nupur, do you want to ask something? Your hand is raised.
Ma'am, do every corporate law firms offer specialized IPR services?
Which law firm?
Ma'am,
She's asking for.
do every corporate law firms offer specialized IPR services?
No, No, I'll not say every firm offers. There are firms which specifically deal in trademark, and there are firms which specifically deal in patents. Uh, so I think it really depends. No, but yeah, most of the firms in today's time do have a legal department. And IP, I won't say if there's a department separately, but then there are definitely IP lawyers in the team, which specifically deal with IP matters. Because IP is really vital for any business in today's time. So I think, yeah, there's a part of IP, I think, to every legal team that every firm has.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think this is it. I hope no one has any queries regarding the session. If you have, please ask. And regarding the participation certificate of yours, the feedback form will be shared to you within the WhatsApp group. I request you all to please fill that form. So as soon as you do that, we will circulate the participation certificate, and we will also share the all the resources you have been talked within the sessions, like the Instagram page of ma'am just mentioned that you can get the updates regarding the intellectual property rights. Please sharing on the Instagram, and we will share that link too. And other resources like PPT and everything, if you need, we will share that as well in WhatsApp group. So if you have any kind of query, please ask. I guess no. So we really thank you so much uh, for this accepting our invitation to join this session. I would like
Thank
to
you.
thank for the on the behalf of whole legal sync team. Uh, so I think they cannot speak for because of the host control. But I would like to really thank you so much for accepting this invitation. This session was really interacting and so insightful for the law students participants. So we really thank you so much, ma'am. The whole legal team, thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so there are some thanks coming in chat box as well.
I would like to thank everybody for listening to me so patiently. And as Ankit mentioned, I'll be spreading the IP page that I have on Instagram, and I would request everybody of you to follow for any new insights and do follow Legal Sync. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.